final lap of To Be Married and Loved. Last time, Rick and Tinsel have actually tied the knot officially at the Mute City Nightly course. And every one of their friends and family have actually attended. And they had witnessed their epic union, especially when Tinsel was singing on stage during the reception with the song Someone Saved My Life Tonight, showing her rage and her angst out to her estranged father that abandoned her several years ago and when he passed away. So, with the reception and the wedding done, it's off to the honeymoon in Port Town. So, here comes the epilogue. Final lap. After singing the finale, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, Tinsel felt vindicated, that her deep scars had finally healed, and that she felt whole and invigorated again thanks to Rick and their union. Even the husband said that he was lifted in that moment to a better place, almost as content as when he saw Haruka in the heavens. However, looking deep into her eyes, he said in a serious tone, "Not yet. There is still one more thing we must do in order to attain total bliss." They were interrupted as Kate announced the raffle contest, an idea from Barry Watterson. The guests filled out their names in the registry book during the reception. They were automatically entered, and 3 winners were announced by a drawing made by a randomizer programmed by the Mighty Gazelle. First place, Jody, got a huge gift basket with stuff, including a 300 space credit prepaid gift card. Second place, Gomar and Shio, got a regular gift basket, along with a 100 space credit prepaid gift card, in which they were actually doing a tug-of-war with each other, making the crowd snicker. And third place, Digiboy, simply got a gift bag. Just above the crowd, Tinsel performed the rose bouquet toss, though it was hard to see in the shadows beneath the track. Dr. Stewart caught it as he rose it up in triumph. The couple hoped he could finally tie the knot with the captain soon enough. So do I. I always wish Stody would be an official couple, especially its name. It was finally off to the Port Town cruise as Rick and Tinsel ran off the circuit and away from the crowds toward the groovy taxi where their personal chauffeur, PJ, was awaiting them. Instead of traditional messy rice, cherry petals were being thrown at them from all sides as they laughed and gleefully headed toward the alien's vehicle. Rick allowed her to get in before he did, and they grinned as they waved goodbye to all their friends, wishing them bon voyage. It took a while for them to calm down while the taxi headed to a wharf gate, although the spaceport wasn't as congested as it usually was. As they were heading towards the pier, they reached the planet just in time as the stars glittered in a sky filled with an opaque vermilion, fading to violet. The same display Tinsel adored since her first encounter during the Queen Lake 15 years prior. Rick tendered her as they both soaked in the scenery. It soon became official that afterwards, their permanent residence would actually be at Falcon's Fortress rather than their Mute City flat. It was now theirs, to Rick's joy, during that evening. They never wanted anything huge and astronomical, so they went with an average hovering yacht shared with a few other interstellar couples. They got settled in, then headed for the balcony to absorb the harbor's beauty. Even the aisles located throughout the open body of water as far as the eye could see. Rick remembered the night when Tanaka headed for Kate's concert and how Tinsel showed him on all the stellar landscapes Port Town had to offer. His mind shifted a few times from all those precious memories involving Haruka. Now he was grateful to share these moments with Tinsel. There was a constant chilling breeze, but it never bothered the anemic wife as long as she stayed close to Rick's side. An hour passed. Then they headed for Deck 01, which was actually below decks. Their cabin was average, though it had a thin paper soundproof sliding door, much like those shojis at Giant. Through their luggage, Rook took out an audio Blu-ray disc and loaded it into the slot. He then faced her, wearing that tense face again. Tinsel. Rick, she repeated his earnest demeanor. It is finally time, at last. They made the ultimate decision to go all the way. He wanted to be unprotected, as well as hearing an enticing performance involving the exotic drums of Giant and the taikos of Japan and Red Canyon. And so, they followed in tandem. This is actually the censored version of this slap. If you want to see the uncensored version, I don't want to show it here, because for obvious reasons, so just look for it elsewhere. He managed to download a few numbers involving the primitive planet's inhabitants, starting out slowly and increasing in velocity and noise, followed by a performance done with a circle of taikos, the same one Tinsel introduced it to him earlier. After a successful bounty hunting mission, she couldn't wait to show her beloved what she found, as a special way to embrace his Japanese heritage. Heck, even Goro had several of them, albeit some were stolen, obviously, and he was more than willing to give one to Rick. He did advise him that they're more powerful if joined in a group, and while playing one themselves, they can also receive just that. So, before the first enticing segment began, Tinsel and Rick dimmed the lights, activated the warm fuchsia shades, and dressed up in their tribal outfits designed and sewn by the inhabitants of Giant. Tinsel departed for the lavatory, then headed out, which put Rick in a state of astonishment. She sat on the bed slowly in front of him. There was a subtle warm-up as the drums were beating steadily and quietly in the background. Listening in on the assembly, their hearts began to race as they felt numb. Tinsel reached for Rick's firm cheeks, and his hands rested on their shoulders as they gazed into their eyes. She whispered, "Once you get under my skin, Rick, there's no getting out. I will accept the offer, Tinsel." They leaned in, then they kissed passionately. They caressed their backs, necks, arms, and thighs as they brushed their lips and sometimes nuzzled each other. He grazed her neck. So did she on his. The heat began to rise as if Rick's ardency was melting the ice around Tinsel's heart, and the feelings of resentment she harbored for her old man for so long, while her ice was soothing Rick's feelings of bitterness toward him. From that moment, she permanently changed her mindset on men in general, as she knew Rick was her chosen, and he felt complete as his past scars were healed, much like hers. They each tasted their mounts. Then they slowly tossed aside their tribal outfits, all except Rick's majestic headdress. As the percussion was beating harder, so did their urges. Their bodies began to intertwine as they followed and got more entranced with the rhythms. They continued to explore each other more. Even Tinsel was curious on something. Rick began to taste her stomach and feel her all around, reminding him of the illusion that her body was like a sponge. When they started to get more aroused, she actually guided him inside her as her flimsy hands pushed him to enter her, while she opened up. Slow. Quick, quick, slow. Quick, quick, slow. Actually, this is the rhythm from one of the old Sesame Street clips. I wish they didn't talk over it. I'll probably show it to you in the description or something, but I wish they didn't talk over it. In and out with Tinsel's and Rick's breathing, as their bodies kept from splitting in two, even when she encouraged him to go faster like his dragon bird, as she played the mattress like another bongo, then increased more in speed and strength, even when he cued her to do the same. They then thrusted at times to feel the raw pressure deep inside. They held each other tightly as their temperature rose like the Suzaku and enveloping them, and their hearts raced like competitors in an F-Zero race, alongside the percussion, enticing them more. He relieved some of the tension, yet they're still going. Oh. He made a deep rush cry emitting from his throat. In turn, Tinsel's sighed in return. Boom, tap, 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 boom, tap, 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 boom, tap, 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 boom, tap, tap, boom, boom. The drums repeated their steady pace as if it was a mantra, while Rick and Tinsel followed. Together, it's as if that his mighty flames in her frigid innards were merging into refreshing water, an element which brings life. Well, fire and ice form water after all. They continued to ride each other, sweat gleamed, their hearts hammering, their sighs audible, their pants rampant. She invited him in further. They felt as if they'd reached the final lap. Tinsel wrapped around him as they each became raw as their reactions. The pace quickened, as did they. It was becoming overwhelming for them, yet they never ceased. Rick's voice became hoarse while Tinsel started to crack as they were beginning to cross the finish line and achieve first place. It was indeed a first for them, as they had no boundaries, as limitless as the deep reaches of the universe. They felt as if their bodies were splitting in half as they caved in. Tinsel cried his name while he squeezed his eyes. Rick! They finally gave away, like warp speed. They felt that time had stopped as they gazed at each other, agape. They were paralyzed, then gave in to their exertion. Rick collapsed beside her, and Tinsel could hardly move. All she did was turn her head, and kiss him lightly on his forehead. That caused him to come to, albeit lightheaded. That's right. You're mine, Rick confirmed. All she could do was paste a thin smile. Then they snuggled into their warm embrace before they blackened out. The galaxy is at peace, and aligned, just as they were. There was no better time than their own sacred union of the Ryu Suzaku and the Genbu. And as Rick and Tinsel Wheeler, they were forever inseparable, and were now one, both in the stars and within their hearts and souls. For the drum numbers, I would first hear the warm-up during the African dance in the park, then that clip as a lizard was beating one, making two birds dance slowly, then have it as a steady rhythm like the one in the Montana miniseries, albeit more tension, and finally the taiko performance from that. This is actually the edited version of this chapter. The unedited lap shall be released... not here though. But it's released on other sites. Just to be safe, of course. So I hope you guys enjoyed this short story as much as I did writing it. Don't get me wrong. I'd still like to see Rick and Haruka's relationship go forward too. But I just hadn't seen much progress with them in the anime, especially since it took a long time for her to return to her senses and not use Rick as a punching bag. I hope I won't get any negativity out of this. Until we meet again, take care, futuristic racing fans, and as always, keep the faith. And maybe hope for the English dubs to have a second wind. Well, that's that, guys. Rick and Tinsel are officially one during their wedding, reception, and finally their honeymoon. And they finally found a permanent place in Port Town. That was great, guys. And so far, this is the latest, not to mention one of the greatest achievements in my F-Zero timeline. So, I'm not sure where to carry the series from here. I'm not sure how to use maximum velocity, which is my least favorite in the series. So, for now, this is actually the latest installment in the F-Zero series. So, I'm not sure what my next project would be in F-Zero or in general, so hopefully I'll have some time to think about it. So, until we meet again, guys, Keep the faith, futuristic F-Zero fans.